Arthur Russell was a curious figure. He lived the life of a starving artist in New York, and starting in 1973 was involved in the avant-garde music scene in New York. He had lots of collaborations with lots of people, including Allen Ginsberg, David Byrne, and Philip Glass. He also had another foot in the New York disco scene, which is a really odd combination. And in fact, he was instrumental, quite important, in bringing the avant-garde and the disco together. When he died at the age of 40 in 1992, he left a vast collection of unfinished recordings and poems. He was prolific and yet hardly released anything. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album World of Echo by Arthur Russell, which was released in 1986 and was his second album. It's actually my second time reviewing this because before I did video reviews, I had a blog with a readership of about 5, in which I was working my way through the 1,000 greatest albums of all time, according to an amalgamated list that I'd made, amalgamating lists from NME and Rolling Stone and Rate Your Music and a few other sites. When I came across this list at Acclaimed Music, I decided I was going to jump ship from my list. I thought that this list was better and I had more confidence in it as a list. So this is what's happened. But I did review it in the camps of the first half, somewhere between 1,000 and 500 on that list. So that means on this list it's lower down than it was on the other list. I did, however, think I would never encounter this album again. So I have now encountered it twice. I have reviewed it. Oh, this is my second review, so I've listened to it at least 4 times. It's one of the strangest albums that I've ever encountered. It's to say it's unusual is really it's understating it. So, World of Echo is a really good title for this. There's a lot of echo going on here. Musically, this is almost all, as far as I can work out, created using a cello, and he was a cellist, with various rhythmic effects. So certainly echo and reverb, and at times it sounds like he's doing it through a single echo. At times it sounds like he's putting it through a single echo and then another longer echo. At times it sounds like he's trying to fake that by playing similar things, but you get slight variations in it. But I think there's also rhythmic gating going on here, which means that the sound can come through in bursts. So there's blah, 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 etc. There may be some drums at play here, but I'm not sure because the sounds that I think of as being drums might also be the cello being hit in various different ways. And I know that he used all sorts of implements to play the cello with. There are electronic noises, and I think they must be from an electronic source. I can't conceive how they could have been made with a cello. And sometimes the cello is distorted like a distorted guitar. Sometimes it sounds a bit kind of slap bassy. And then, on top of all this, on most of the tracks, he sings. Again, he might put some echo on the singing, usually a bit of reverb, and sometimes it's kind of hard to hear what he's actually singing. He's kind of muttering it sometimes. Other times it's clearer. It's kind of a minimalist avant-garde thing. It's mostly variations on the same idea. So I have this thought that sometimes modern artists, so think about modern art painters. A modern art painter might do a piece called Splatters on Muslin, number 35, which means if he's been consistent, this means he's done another 34 variations on splatters on muslin. And it's definitely a thing to do a repetition of the idea that you've got, as if repetition adds significance to what you're doing. I'm not a subscriber of the idea that that repetition gives it significance. But maybe if you're really, really sold by this one particular idea of splattering paint onto muslin, then you're going to make your career out of that. So Arthur Russell didn't make a career just out of this, but did he make a whole album out of this idea, which is this echo? The speed of the echo and of the other things is rhythmic, and it's quite similar on most of the tracks. So it's got this kind of speed feel to it, which seems to be consistent across most of the album. It's almost hypnotic at times and is surprisingly restful. So I do two listens when I do a review. First time listening through, I was a bit, oh, really, this again, and was quite bored and was thinking, this is going to be quite a low score, isn't it? Second time listening, I was a little bit better taken with it. So maybe is it a grower? I'm not sure. Maybe you just have to be in the right mood for it. He's got singing, as I said, some echo, but it's less treated. It's fortunate that he's got a nice voice, and I think it's the quality of his voice that carries this above this kind of weird, bizarre backing. Often, as I said, you can't really work out when he's singing, but when you can, and when from the song titles as well, it suggests mostly deliberate banality. So it's about very everyday things. It's not trying to say anything profound, unless he really is, and I haven't spotted it. So it's not a particularly accessible album, I'd say. If you're interested in more avant-garde, weird extremes of music, this might very well be for you. It's certainly a curiosity and something to maybe hear some of once in your life. If you're more of a mainstream person, it might leave you at best bemused. It's like, why? And at worst, bored, I would say. I'm not sure that it's really hateable. It's just some of that is just the quality of his voice is good enough to pull it in somehow. So for me, I'd say it's quite mood dependent. And other than trying to work out the technical details of how he's achieved the effect that he's got, I wasn't actually particularly engaged. So that's what I think of this album. I'd love to know what you think of this album. It is such a way out there album that it's going to give all sorts of different reactions to it. So please, will you share your reaction to it by leaving me a comment? And while you're there, why not subscribe as well? I very rarely ask people to do that. But yeah, come along with me on this journey through all these amazing, weird, wonderful, and not so wonderful albums that I'm reviewing over the next few years. But that's it from me for now.
Are you